republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, then, just a couple of reminders as we get into everything here. We do have an update with the police union contract that Jennifer passed around. Tarek will talk about some additional changes to that update when we get there. At the end of our meeting, we'll be going into closed session to talk about Mr. Ulrich's annual performance review and talk about some potential contract negotiations with him as well. And then finally, at 6:30, we have our annual Truth in Taxation public hearing. So we will be adjourning our council meeting, opening a public hearing on that, taking any comment, doing anything else, and then coming back into our council meeting. Okay. With that in mind, I will open with our council activity reports. We had a policies and procedures meeting with a number of things coming onto tonight's agenda, so I won't go into detail about what we talked about there. We'll deal with it when we get to those things. Had a meeting with Jennifer, Bill, and Tarek to go over some of the zoning ordinance changes. That's going to be coming back, including on an area where there's a little disagreement among the four of us. A good disagreement, professional, cordial. I wasn't able to meet the budget and finance meeting. I had some work obligations, so I apologize that I couldn't do that. And then finally, we had a lot of us got together at Queen Bee's to celebrate Jean's birthday on Saturday. So happy 30th birthday, Jean.
I was what?
Hey, I'm on the record. I'm just going to say 30.
That sounds good.
Okay. Mr. Hertzberg.
We had a finance meeting and just got done with public works. Finance, I guess, came up with a final budget, and public works is a lot of different topics tonight. Some will be coming up in the next meeting.
Oh, before I go on, since Neil talked about public works, I was approached by a reporter with KSTP, as was Tarek and Jeff Thompson and Ron Morgan, probably a whole bunch of other people that we don't know about regarding the benzene in our water supply. And apparently there's a lawsuit involving a former Minnesota Pollution Control Agency employee alleging whistleblower violations. So I was approached regarding that. Did provide a statement back to them. If anybody wants to see that, I'll be happy to pass it along, and we'll see if anything else comes of it. All right, Ms. Brooke.
I attended the hopefully first annual Christmas tree lighting in town, so that was fun. There was a Zoom meeting with Senator Tina Smith and some other small local governments, mostly regarding small city infrastructure. And then we had a Zoom meeting for Safe Routes to School, which is kind of an early brainstorming session to start on those projects.
All right. Ms. Sweeney.
I don't have anything to report.
All right.
Oh, and Jean's birthday, of course.
Yeah, Jean's birthday.
That was it.
Yeah, you were.
And careful to note, I think we're all very careful not to discuss any business because no one was
Yeah.
any desire
I
to
was
do
monitoring,
so.
yeah, made sure of that.
Yeah.
Park said, no business.
Mr. Thielen.
Policies and procedures last Wednesday night, and of course Jean's birthday party, which I got to start off saying happy birthday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's right.
I'm good.
What was that screeching sound?
I didn't know it was a big event.
What?
I didn't know it was such a big event.
You knew it.
I didn't know it was happening until that day.
Moving on then to our department head reports, Mr. Merkin.
All right, so first of all, the work that we had scheduled at the library, the roof over there is supposed to get going this week. I have not seen the contractor as of today though. Out at the compost, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the rotor chopper was out there and all the brush has been chipped. So there is a ton of chips out there. We'd like to thank Roto Chopper for doing it. It is at no charge to the city, so that's tremendous. Christmas tree pickup is will be the same as last year up at the fire hall till approximately the January 12th, I believe it is. I'd like to remind residents, the snow removal, to please clean their sidewalks. I know we have about a half a dozen letters or more going out today that reminding people. Park reservations, again, remind residents that they can reserve the shelters anytime through the winter here. Then out at the airport, obviously we are still full, and we do have about a waiting list of 3 pilots. I have been, they're asking me when are we going to get another hangar built, and I told them it is going to be quite a long time, so I am encouraging them to look at constructing private hangars. With knowing just the amount of projects we have coming up out there, it's going to be years before the city would have the funds available. So, and also the Friends of the Airport is working on another air show for next year. They do not have a date at this time, but they said yes, they definitely plan on one. So, thank you.
Mr. Overfine.
Yeah, attended the Budget and Finance, Public Works, which was this evening, and then Policies and Procedures. And then, like Megan said, there were 3 Zoom sessions with state representatives hosted by the Minnesota Association of Small Cities. So it was Congresswoman Fishbach, Senator Tina Smith, and the staff of Senator Klobuchar. And all were surrounding the same kind of topic: is the new infrastructure bill, what's coming up, what could possibly be in it, because there are not too many details yet, and what are some of the questions or concerns some of the small cities have that could be addressed. And then finally attended the Safe Throughout the School with the school superintendent, representatives from both schools, representatives from MnDOT, as well as the consultant working on it. Chief Wegner was there, Megan was there, and Ron was there, as well as Chuck. So we had a pretty big group, and hopefully we'll see how it goes. The next meeting or the next workshop is scheduled for sometime beginning of March to take all the feedback that we've given them and try to come up with at least a preliminary plan or idea of what a safe route school plan would look like.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to the adoption of our consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the meetings listed on page 1, the vouchers totaling $204,909.12 on page 2, and the approval of the liquor licenses listed on page, tobacco licenses or cigarette licenses listed on page 3. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Sony. Any discussion on that? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. That carries. Okay. Going on to new business, the Lions Club of Painesville with a gambling permit at Queen Bee's. Would you looking for a motion to approve the permit?
Whoops.
Question, what is this for? Is this a special
It is. It's
event?
It's for the
Yeah.
fire department, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's they're gonna do some kind of a special bingo for the fire department. I think my understanding is they're gonna try to raise, I believe, $10,000, and 80% of it will go to the fire department.
Okay. I know they have their bingo on Tuesday night, but that
Yeah.
falls under a different
Yeah.
program.
This is something like what they call, like, they have those fancy purse or gun bingos or something. I think it's along that line, but you can't get a gun anymore, so you just gotta get a certificate for shields, but you can get whatever you want.
And they have to pay the $100 application fee. With that, I'll make the motion to approve Minnesota Lawful Gambling LG 220 application for exempt permit for the Lions Club of Painesville to conduct bingo activity at Queen Bee's Bar and Grill Incorporated on February 27th, 2022.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Brick, as stated on the action sheet, to approve the lawful gambling application for the Lions Club on February 27th, 2022. Any further discussion on this? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Carries. The aeration pond. Ron?
Okay, out of the aeration pond, there are 3 mowers with blowers. They are 200 horse with the blowers, actually they're centrifugal blowers. They produce 2,200 cubic feet of air per minute. They were installed in 2012. Each blower does have vibration sensors on the bearings. And actually, we were sensing, we had both companies out here, and they both came back with the same prognosis that it is not the sensors, that there is indeed a bearing going out on this one unit. And they both did give us a price, the first from the Lewis Motors of Way Park there at the 4886 or 4866, and Continental blowers. That is the company who did install them. They were at $7,003 or $7,303. Public Works did just review this, and they have recommended it, noting that this does come out of the sewer budget, and it is under the portion that is directly billed back to ANPI. So, in a sense, they will be paying 100% of this.
And is the recommendation to go with Lewis?
Correct. Yes.
That's a big difference. I'll make the motion to approve the quote from Lewis Motor Repair in the amount of $4,886.40 for the rehab of the aeration pond blower.
That figure's wrong.
Okay,
On the quote, it says,
$466.40.
yes, that's right.
See that?
Well, we'll take the motion for Lewis Motor. Do you
Yeah.
have a second?
Second.
Okay. A motion by Sony, seconded by Thielen to accept the quote from Lewis Motor. Any further discussion on that one? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. The water pond filtration media. Ron.
The water treatment filtration, yes, this was installed in 2014. Normally, we would see a much longer life expectancy out of the filter media. However, due to all the contamination that we have seen over the years, we're at a point where we do need to replace it. This company, they will come in, basically taking it right down to the backwash grids, that the items inside all are proprietary in so basically meaning that nobody else can go in there and work on it. We did check with the auditors, and that apparently as long as it is noted that it is proprietary, that's about all we can do. But they will come in and do 100% of the labor, which it will be extremely labor intense. It's 15 inches of support gravel, 15 inches of green sand, and 15 inches of anthracite coal. It will be down for at least a week, so during that period of time, we will have to bypass the filter, and so we will be adding some a chemical to sequester all the iron and manganese during that time, which this has been done several times in the past, so it's nothing that would be extremely unusual.
How long did we think this was going to last?
The filter media normally would have a 15 to a 20-year life expectancy. The Public Works Committee did have quite a lengthy discussion about the very thing you had mentioned there about the lawsuit, and if there is any way possible to go back and collect some of this from that, because it definitely did shorten the life expectancy up. Now, the one thing we did switch, remember just a year ago, initially when we built the VOC plant, the water went through the VOC plant and then through the filter. We spent the money to reverse that, so now the water comes through the filter first and then goes through the VOC plant.
And that alone was over 100,000.
Correct. Yes.
So my question is, how long can this wait, if it can?
We waited as long as we can. This really needs to be done before next summer.
Okay.
And if you note on here, there is a 12-week order time, so it's something that does need to move forward.
The reason I asked is if we could hold off and put some pressure on MPCA to come up with some money, but probably not. So, okay.
We still have the documentation of having to do it, so
Yep.
that should help.
Yep, it will. I just thought we could. Well, I would be looking for a motion to approve this, and then I think otherwise, Ron, let's you, me, Chuck, and Tarek sit down with MPCA, Lisa Damath, I know, reached out to us, whoever else is willing to listen and try and get some reimbursement for what should be lasting us twice as long.
Right.
I'll make the motion to approve the quote from Curita, something like that, in the amount of $169,990 to refurbish the Tonka water filter with funds to come from the water equipment reserves.
Second.
I have a motion by Sony, seconded by Hertzberg, to approve the quote from Curita in the amount of $169,990 to refurbish the Tonka water filter with funds to come from the water equipment reserves. Any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Okay. Wildland gear for the fire department.
I'm speaking to Randy tonight. He was not able to be here. They have truck training, so I told him I could fill in for him. This is some gear that they purchased from Alex Air. Total is $51,3449. Back in June, we received a CenterPoint Energy grant of $2,500 that was to go to this. And at the time, it was thought that the remainder of this would come out of Relief Association, but that has since changed. So we just need council approval for the purchase of the gear minus the $2,500 grant that we received.
And there's money in the capital improvement fund to pay for this?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of the wildland gear from Alec Air Apparatus, Inc. in the amount of $5,134.49, with $2,500 from CenterPoint Energy Grant, and the remainder to pay aid out of the fire capital improvement fund.
Second.
I have a motion by Sony, seconded by Hertzberg, as stated on the action sheet, to approve the purchase of the wildland gear from Alex Air Apparatus in the amount of $5,134.49, with $2,500 from the CenterPoint Energy Grant and the remainder being paid out of the fire capital improvement fund. Any further discussion on this? None? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Okay, then on to our update, the police union contract. Mark, you want to talk to us a little bit about this, or Chief? whoever's here?
No, I'll talk about it. Yeah, this is, I circulated the draft contract after we had met with the new union representative, plus a member of the police department, and came up with some tentative agreement on what we would like to see in a new contract. All of us kind of agreed to it, and then the union rep went back and kind of incorporated the changes into the previous union contract to try to meet all the requirements that we asked for. What I had circulated was the draft with the changes, so you can see what the changes were made. I looked at it, and all the changes that or the suggestions that we had agreed to are reflected in the document. Sean, I know today that you picked up a couple of slight adjustments or errors, nothing major, but the corrections that you wanted me to put in there, I had put in there already.
So, the biggest change that I had is in Article 8, Section 8.1. The current language includes the words up to 84 hours, and the words up to should be removed.
Yep.
Actually, so should the word scheduled after that. Because what that does is that removes a past practice, which was a payroll nightmare. A few points to hit on the labor negotiations thought about. There is, you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. There is a somewhat sizable wage bump. Those wages will put the officers in line with the area market. Various other departments of similar size and locale. This will bring us into a competitive position instead of being, I think, the second to the lowest pay among all of them. The other thing to pay attention to, and I'm just making sure I find it here.
Two more.
On page 16, otherwise 18 of the update packet, section 12.4 which is a sabbatical period.
So that-
That is something new. We would be the first department in the state to do something like this. So what it does is it recognizes the added stress that a first responder carries with them. And a full-time officer who works for the department for 5 years would be eligible in year 6 to take a 4-week sabbatical. They have to take it all in one chunk, all in year 6, work with the chief on scheduling to make sure that staffing levels are appropriate. But basically it gives them a chance to recharge, and we're hoping that that puts us in a better position to attract better officers, and then retain the ones that we have. Neil, anything that you think we missed out on in this?
No, on 15-1, page 20, they're writing over the contract in 19, but it's a 3% for every year,
Yes.
22, 23, and 24.
Yep, 3%.
Plus the hour adjustments to put us in line with surrounding departments.
Yep, that's correct.
No, I'm pretty sure this is what we agreed on, and if they're good, I'm sure good.
Yeah, it's my recollection of the agreement. I looked through it. Like I said, I noted a couple of changes, but they were pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. On behalf of the Labor Negotiations Board, I would recommend approval of this.
I have one question first.
Yes,
Under 12.4 in the sabbatical,
yes.
is this retroactive?
For the 5 years?
Yeah.
It would be for any employee when they hit that 60-month mark. So it's not like a new hire.
Okay, so,
The officers we have, once they hit the 60 month, they would be eligible for it.
so if they've already got 3 years in, and they've got 2 years to wait?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
I didn't see that in writing here, so I just wanted to make sure that we're clear on that.
Yeah.
So. Any other discussion on it? Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Also move.
Second.
A motion by Sony, seconded by Hertzberg. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none, that carries. All right. Moving on to old business, department head benefits on page 19 of our regular agenda. This was tabled and brought to policies and procedures at our last meeting. Policies discussed this. There were a couple of concerns, and someone correct me if I'm wrong here. One is that a number of years ago, the labor union contracts had a one-time increase of $500 for deferred comp funds. That $500 was not passed on to the department heads. So they are still at a lower amount. So they asked for a one-time increase. This says annual. When we discussed it at policies and procedures, we said one-time increase of $500, which brings it in line with what was done for the other employees. The other was sort of the ability to have the department head's ability to talk to labor negotiations about benefits and negotiations, things like that. I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul or Tara, but that was always there, and if it wasn't something in the past, then that's a failing on us. It certainly exists going forward. Let's do that annually. So if we have to put that in a formal plan, we will. So let's do that. Otherwise, we said that the recommendation from policies and procedures was for all department heads to share in the same ancillary benefits as the people whom they oversee, with the exception of the police chief and the sabbatical policy. And the reason for that is not to be mean to the police chief, but simply that given our current staffing levels, we don't know that we can do that. But that is something that we should continue to review every year when we do these annual negotiations and discussions. Did I miss anything? Okay. miss anything from your point of view?
Nope.
Department heads, okay? So basically, we'd be looking for a motion for a one-time increase of $500 in matching funds and deferred comp, and then a policy that department heads would receive the same benefits as their employees minus the sabbatical.
I'll make motion to an annual increase of 500 in matching funds for the deferred comp.
Can I stop you before you go too much further? Policies have talked about a one-time. Are you intentionally changing that to annual?
No, one time.
Okay.
I would just, he said annual up here on top.
Yeah, policies recommended a
A
one-time.
one time of 500, okay.
So is that just
We want
that right now?
Also, the ability to talk to the labor negotiation board about benefits and to have the same benefits as approved in the other contract.
Any exceptions to that in your motion?
Except for the sabbatical?
Were you including the sabbatical, or was that an exclusion?
What was,
The recommendation from policies was to exclude the sabbatical for the police chief.
correct.
Okay. So I have a motion for a one-time increase of $500 in matching funds and deferred comp for all department heads, the ability of the department heads to talk to the labor negotiations board about benefits, and I think motion is for anything else on an annual basis, and then for department heads to share in the benefits of their employees, minus the sabbatical for the police chief. Is that your motion, sir? Okay.
Sounds good.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Thielen. Do I have any further discussion on this?
Because of the department heads in question, I'll abstain from the vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That carries. 4 votes, 1 abstention. Thank you, Ms. Brick. Moving on then to page 20, non-union eligible or non-union employee benefits. Tarek or Belinda, I think both of you kind of have a better understanding of this than I do. I get it, but I don't know that I can regurgitate it. So,
Oh, go ahead, Belinda.
Well, basically, we have just a handful of employees, some of them being seasonal, some of them just in the number of hours they work in a week that are non-union eligible. They simply cannot be a part of the union per labor laws. And we're asking here to approve their wage increases and all applicable benefits to them as per the union contracts in which they would also pertain to. So your public works or your liquor store employees would follow the city, and potentially part-time police would follow their contract, the police contract. And there's not very many in place, but there are a handful.
and then just to clarify, this is not giving benefits to those who don't qualify. It's simply
Correct.
confirming that those who do qualify will follow their respective department.
Correct. No new benefits.
Questions about that? Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to approve as indicated.
What about employees that aren't part of the union?
That's what this is. That's
Okay.
exactly what this
I
is.
mean, we have full-time employees that
Are not part of the
went under the,
That is true. Yes, there is that as well.
and so this would approve benefits.
Yep.
I won't be voting on this, I just had a question though, is there a difference between ineligible and choose not to be part of the union?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a vote for those who are ineligible?
Yeah, non-union eligible or non-union employee benefits. It's trying to cover both.
It's for both, yeah.
It's for both?
So it's employees that have the ability to be a part of the union but have chosen not to.
Yep.
And for the employees that by statute cannot vote.
For the season.
Because we do have a handful of.
Is there a motion or for or against?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the wage increases and applicable benefits within the AFS-CMA contract for staff members who are ineligible to be part of the union and non-members of the union.
Second.
Motion by Thielen, seconded by Sony. A little bit of discussion. Our new police secretary, is she union eligible?
Yes.
And does she fall under AFSCME or the new LEL? Okay, so that would be covered by this. Yeah. Any other discussion?
Did we include the PD on that one? Sorry, missed that.
PD is.
Yeah, if you have a part-timer, yeah. Yep.
Well, the motion was made just within the AFSCME contract. So, as I understand this motion, a police officer is not a member of the union who would fall under the AFSCME benefits, not the LELS. And that's not what the intention is?
No, I believe that if you would go to your applicable union. So if you are Public Works or Liquor or City Admin, you would go to the AFSCME contract. If you are non-eligible police, you would follow the police contract.
Councilmember Thielen, would you be open to a friendly amendment to remove the AFSCME contract and simply permit your motion to say applicable benefits within the employee's department?
Sure.
Okay?
All right, motion to approve wage increases and applicable benefits.
How about within the contract governing that respective department?
Within the contract respecting that department.
Okay. And does your second still stand?
Sure.
Okay. So with the amended motion and the second, and it's a friendly, so I don't think we're going to vote on the amended motion. Jennifer doesn't want us to anyway.
I think the confusion arose if this was brought up prior to the,
It was. Yeah. Yeah, so we didn't have the LELS prior to this, so
sorry about that.
it's okay. We're just making sure that we're all good. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Votes 4-0 with one abstention. Okay. Moving on then to the deed investment fund for
We
Avon
have to
West.
have a hearing.
Oh, are we at 6:30? Thank you, Gene. I lost track of time. So it being 6:32, we will adjourn our council meeting, and open our public session on our truth and taxation. We've done this a little bit differently over the years, where we either go through the entire budget all at once, we have the department heads go through everything as well. We don't have anybody here to ask questions. I'll ask staff, did we get any comments or questions before the meeting? Nope. Okay. Yep. So I think if we just want to, don't know that we want to belabor this. All of us here in the room have studied this a few times, but go through it.
So I can start. The general fund doesn't have any changes from the prelim. And sorry, my regular glasses are broken, so I have to use my computer glasses and try to go back and forth. The levy, the 2022 certified tax levy is set at $994,054. LGA at $777,275. Other revenue at $872,018, bringing us a total of $2,643,347 for both revenue and expenditure. We are going in at a balanced budget. That's the plan. The proposed tax levy for 2022 would have $143,000, $54 increase. Everything on this has stayed the same. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into. So the main increases and decreases actually in the expenditures are salary reallocations, insurance, transfers that we upped in certain departments to their capital improvements. That's the main things. EDAP, we put budget back in, which we did not have that transfer in last year. That's the general expenditures. There's a graph kind of showing the salary and benefit percentages. Salaries equal 42% of the general fund, benefits 3.7%, remaining budget is 54.3%. Salary just shows the different salary benefits and the remaining budget compared to last year. This is a graph of the general fund expenditures by type. General government is 17.5, that includes your admin, your building, your motor vehicle, your planning, council, public safety, which is police and fire and EM, is 32% of the budget. Building inspector, weed and tree and compost is 4.3. Public works, which includes streets, snow removal and airport, is 22.3. Library, parks, beach and trail make up parks and rec, that's 8.5%. Debt service is the repayment of our bond debt, is 11.3. Miscellaneous is your recreational program payments, your cable, EDAP transfer, that's 4.1%. On to revenues in the general fund. EDAP receipts increased 16.7%, that's due to the change in the policy. Property taxes, of course, are increasing. Airport is mainly farmland rent, fuel. Building permits is permit fees in general. The graph on that, property taxes are 37.6% of the budget. State categorical aid is 3.3, fines and forfeitures are just 0.5%, charges for services 21.7, interest is 1.1 on a good day, miscellaneous is 4, state general purpose aid is 29.5, licenses and permits are 2.3. And this is just a graph showing the LGA over the years. EDAP, expenditures. The biggest change here would be salary reallocation. Engineering and contractual, you'll see a decrease based on not including downtown rehab that we added the budget in past years. And we are at the water fund, Ron.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly then, the proposal for the water fund is the base rate would not increase at all, and a 11-cent increase to the bulk rate. Source of supply, obviously, that's the wells, is 9.3%. Purification, that's the treatment plant, including the VOC plant, 3.3. Distribution is all the hydrants, valves, any water leaks, etc. That's 5.6. Admin, it actually went down 6.5%, and then the non-operating expenses, that's the debt funds. And most of our CIP funds, that is at 3.3 for a total appropriation of 1.9% increase for $1,053,377. On the second sheet there, where it is, the social supply is 3.4% of the budget, the purification 5%, distribution 3%, salaries 10%, admin the 5.2%, and the non-operating expenses at $770,000. Over in the sewer budget, the collection system was at 7%. The disposal system, that's actually the ponds themselves, went down actually 1.8%. The admin went down, or is at 0.4%. The non-operating expenses 5.2%. Irrigation system admin was 7.5%, and the aeration basin at 4.5%, for a net increase there of 3.5%, or $1.656 million. And the proposal is a $2 increase to the base rate and 22 cents on the bulk rate. All right, and just quickly, the disposal system then was 3.4% of the budget. The sewer salary benefits 4.8%, the sewer admin 25%, non-operating expenses 37%, irrigation and the admin irrigation basin 12%, and the collection system at 2.8%. Thank you.
And we've got the liquor fund.
So, to kind of summarize how we did our budget this year, we're forecasting our next year. Our biggest challenge, obviously, is going to be staffing and filling those salaries. I think we're going to have to look really hard at what we pay our staff to be very competitive with the rest of the people in the business. Our other expenses are going to increase a little bit by 5.7%. Wholesale purchases are going to go up because our sales are going to go up. We're going to have to purchase more. So total appropriations are going to be 5.3%. As you look at the graph, you can see 69% of our expenses is purchasing products. Salaries is just 13.9, and the rest is pretty much the same as it always is compared to the other expenditures. The next page, we basically are forecasting a 5% increase across the board, which is forecasting the same as we have been the last couple of years. The sales continue to increase because of the COVID. And this is industry standard. So we went up another 5%. And if you look at the next page on the graph, you can see the beer sales are still our number one sale at 45.9. Liquor sales are 25%. And wine is about 10.5%. That should be going up a little bit more, hopefully next year as well. So a couple of things that we're going to be challenged against next year besides staffing is product availability. There's going to be a lot of shortages, outages due to the can shortage, labor shortages, trucking industry shortages. And as our suppliers are having troubles staffing their warehouses, it's going to reflect in our stores. So, and then again, the rising cost of products. I just received a like product that went up $10 a bottle on a whiskey, so from last year. So we're going to see that more and more. So that kind of looks ours.
And I think the other thing we have in the general is just so you guys know, just to note that when we did the prelim and got the paperwork ready for this, of course, the police contract had not been approved, so that's not.
And one of the things that labor negotiations considered is that most of that increase in the police contract should be absorbed by not having a filled position, at least for 3 months, presumably.
I think when I ran the initial numbers in looking at what Tarek had given me, the part-time position was within a couple thousand of what the changes to the current staff. So it's very close. Same amount.
And then I know I'll ask the department heads individually, but I'll start, Melinda, with you and Tarek. Could you speak just a little bit about the efforts made to reduce the expenditures and keep the levy amount lower?
I'll talk on a high level, and maybe Belinda can add in where I missed, but in doing the expenses, of course, the first thing we look at is what expenses can we either avoid pushing back for maybe another year or try to find another way to do it. And a lot of the stuff, especially a lot of the programs that we do, one of the first things we do is, we, especially working with Chuck, we try to see what programs that we need to do where we can find grant programs and assistance to help us. So those are always our first things to do is, do we need to do it now? Can we wait? What kind of partners or assistance can we get to do the program? And then internally here, what we did is we were looking for a 3/4 time position within City Hall, and I guess we decided to put that one on hold. And within the police department, of course, we were, instead of a full-time police officer, we thought let's try and see if we can get a part-time police officer to save on the budget as well. But of course, we were not lucky in that front. Hopefully now with this new contract, we'll be more successful at attracting a replacement for the officer or the position we have open now. So that's on a high level what we have tried to do to keep costs down or keep costs from rising.
And it's that time of the season when we're looking at union contracts, and I think that they stayed pretty steady to what we've done in the past. The ASME one was very similar to the one that was done 3 years ago. I don't think anything was out of line there. Some of the bigger changes to the budget out of our hands, workers' comp was increased dramatically. A big portion or a big reason that increased is due to the unrest in the police world. Property and liability, they go through the buildings every few years. They went through the buildings and that increased substantially. So that was the biggest changes that we had no control over. Everything else, we truly go through this budget line by line. And, we can't, if we were to decrease something as simple as utilities or fuel any further down to make the budget look better, it's not going to be a true picture. what we have is really, we are at the level of, we go and look at the last 5 years and try to average it out. You know, we can't sugarcoat it and make it, if we sugarcoat it, make it look better, it's not going to be a true budget.
Ron, what have you done to try and cut costs?
I think
We put the money
That explained it very well. I mean, I think we are running a bare bones minimum budget. The most the increases we are seeing is for maintenance and repair. I'm getting calls from vendors telling us they're going to see a 10% increase pretty much across the board on all parts they supply. And I think that's all of them. I think searching for grants is huge. You know, Chuck does an awesome job trying to keep ahead of it, what's available to us. I think a good example too is our shop that we have. You know, proposal was out there to build a $3-4 million shop. Obviously, it's a reality, we can't afford that. And the opportunity came and, you know, the purchase was 111 Pomeroy, and I think we did, and I think that's going to save us a lot of money down the road.
Is there anything left to cut in your department that wouldn't affect the service then that you provide?
Really, no.
Okay. Chief, what have you tried to do?
Stay afloat. So when we looked at our budget this year, there were a couple things that really stood out. Obviously with the new contract, you know, there was a sizable increase with some of the pay and the benefits that were there. However, we actually believe that in the long term, that's going to save us money. If ultimately these bring more officers in and, you know, we create stability with our wages and being closer to market rate for our area, that's going to save us, you know, potentially $20,000 a year that we're spending, you know, just to constantly cycle through people. So while there's an increase in the initial upfront, we think in the long run, these things are going to help to provide some stability. Obviously, we dropped down an officer to a part-time position right now. And then we also ended up disbanding the K-9 program, which ultimately saved us some money. Overall, if you look at our budget, pretty much since I've gotten here, most of our increases to the budget have strictly been wages and benefits. So we try and keep things as stable as possible.
Same question I asked Ron, can we cut anything else without hurting your services?
Not a thing. As it is there, I think what we're starting to see is we're going to start seeing more and more put on our, you know, on our shoulders. A lot of technology, a lot of the stuff that we use are, you know, going to app-based things or online cloud stuff. We were just notified that Stearns is switching their dictation software. We have not been paying that. We've been riding on their coattails with their current system. And that's an expense that we're going to now have to start absorbing as, you know, as we move forward. It's just kind of the cost of doing business, but no, there's, I don't know where you cut or where else you cut.
All right. Bill, same questions.
You know, I think when you look at our expenses, you look at salary is always our biggest expense. We budget for staffing, we budget for customer service. Those times of the year, you know, we've been very fortunate to build, you know, we've doubled our business in 10 years, so that takes a lot of manpower to take care of that. We did get hit with a couple things that the last couple of years, workers' comp insurance really increased, and so did our insurance, because our inventory, you know, had to take a big increase to keep all those products that people are asking us to carry for them. So we did have to make some cuts in all the controllable areas. I really like looking at that one by one. We might have to get creative with staffing going forward. That's our biggest challenge. We might not be able to double shift at times, but I can tell you in our peak times we'll be well staffed. One nice thing that really helped was securing our lease at the price that we have. It's a very fair price, and if we can continue that, that helps. Plus, our biggest challenge always is our margin. Where can we increase those profits without raising that price? So we want to be very competitive and continue to watch those industry standards, and that's my job. So,
You?
On the flip side of the expenditures, a note on the revenue end that is looking positive. It's not a guarantee yet. We're looking at doing written testing here. For each test we give here, we make $10. We are looking at trying to do 4 every half hour, 1 day a week. You're looking at possibly over $20,000 revenue coming in from that. We're still kind of working out the kinks with the computers and some of the other issues of how we're going to have it man-powered back here, but it's looking very good. The regional was out from St. Cloud and they did approve of our setup in here for it.
And so we'd be seeing increased revenue, but not a lot of increased expense with that?
Correct.
Okay.
There really would not be any increase in expense based on, you know, as long as the staff that we have can handle the man hours. There may be some initial setup expense with computers.
So what I'm hearing from each of the department heads and city admin and our treasurer, this is what it costs to run the city
Yep.
For this.
2020.
for 2022. Anything less than what we've budgeted, and we're cutting the services that we provide. Okay.
I guess I have a comment. I'm on the committee, and we did cut a lot of CIP for almost every 5,000 here, 10 there. And that's only hurting us down the road every time we make cuts to the CIP.
Yeah.
But the truth of the reality is inflationary issues are hurting everybody across the board, and we're going to see it too, and it doesn't help our budget if we allow enough inflationary pressure or not. But insurance went up. What we're offering as a benefit to everybody. How much did we? What was our?
For health insurance,
Yes.
the city's max went from $850 a month to $900.
Okay.
So $50 an employee, and that is if they use the max. They don't
Yeah.
all use the max.
Okay. So I think we did our best, and this is where it's at. We want to keep the door open.
Any other questions or comments?
You have a comment?
Yeah.
There's a few things that as the city requires: police, fire, streets, water, and sewer. That's the core. To go back to the residents in town here and tell them that the budget's going to be, or the taxes are going to be proposed where there's going to be a 16.8% increase is not acceptable. The people in town, the businesses are going to have to carry this on their backs. And in the past, I believe there's been some payouts that were questionable. And again, to ask the residents to take care of this, especially those that are on a fixed income, is, we're going in the wrong direction. And I don't think that, I think we can work a little harder on getting it down where it's at. At least get it down to anything 10% or below. And I hate to be the bad guy in the room here, but that's just the reality of it, is that when people on their fixed incomes look at their property tax statement, I'm not quite sure what they're thinking, but I know it can't be good. With the school referendum that tried to pass, the residents spoke out and said, no, enough's enough. And I'm just repeating what that vote, the results of the vote were. I would hope that somewhere along the way we can work towards looking out for those that are less fortunate in the city here.
I can make a comment here on this. A 16% increase in our budget is high, but it does not mean your taxes are going up 16%. because we have increased, tax base. And the seniors that are on fixed income, there is a program where they can have them frozen, and they don't have to pay until they sell their house or something.
Senior Citizens Property Relief Act.
Yep, yep.
Because I know my taxes are going up significantly with this proposal, but I believe there are others whose taxes may be even going down, even with our increase.
Mine didn't change more than a couple $100.
And
No.
you're talking fixed income, but fixed income, all of us on Social Security are getting a very nice COLA this year.
Yeah, for
Now,
a change.
granted, Medicare is gonna take a chunk, but at the end of the day, it's tremendous. It's not like we are getting extra money.
And I guess the thing is, we've done the small increases, 3, 4, 5, year after year after year. And sometimes we've had to make drastic cuts and have less staff, and it comes a time where we just have to bite the bullet once and try and fix it.
So I'm going to hold us for a second. I don't want to get too much into our nuts and bolts discussion. We'll save that.
Right, this is the
We're
hearing.
going to pass it.
Okay.
So I've heard comments from Paul, Gene made some comments in the other parts of it. Megan, did you have anything on the public hearing you want to add? We will have a chance to come back to this
On the
later.
public hearing, no.
Okay, so then, any other comments or anything from the public hearing? Hearing nothing, I've got 6:57, we'll close the public hearing, reopen our business meeting. You know what, since we were at a good stopping point, let's just go straight to the levy. We'll just stay on that. Megan, you said you had some comments not related to the public hearing? What do you have?
Just on the budget in general.
Yeah.
I definitely don't, if there's somebody who's less fortunate, as Paul said, I definitely don't want to make it any more difficult for them, but I don't know. I think when we get what we pay for, which in some cases, like the school thing not passing is not enough, we're gonna get complaints then too, and we're gonna get people having issues then too. And I feel like there are, we've already cut a lot of corners, and, for one, I feel that we should have a fully staffed police department again with 5 officers, and I don't know where that money is supposed to come from. But, when we talk about like this water filtration system, obviously we're gonna pass that, of course, that's safety, we can't skimp on that. But given the times that we're in and the issues that we've run into lately, and I don't know how serious they were, but there, 2 schools had school shooting threats recently in the area. And with COVID and overcrowding, the counties aren't always taking into custody nonviolent offenders. I'm worried we're gonna head into a dangerous situation without a fully staffed department. And again, I don't know where that money's supposed to come from. And that's the case in a lot of things. I know we're gonna have to make some hard decisions, but I certainly don't know what we can do to make it even less and still be safe. And still have the kind of things that people want their tax money going towards. So if anybody else has any opinions on that, that'd be.
I think, Paul, on the comment you made, the core issues that a city has to do. And on the things that you identified, I don't disagree, but I think there are also things that the city must do that aren't included. I think it is important that we have a library for education and educating our citizens, that we contribute to things like our Green Roof Area Center, the Historical Society. I think those things are important to help all of our community. You don't always see the direct impact from things like that, but the long-term effects of having a better educated public go far beyond what it costs just to get there. We're getting really into the clouds on this, I get it, but if we would spend more money on education,
education on the front end, I think all the data show that we could have fewer calls on the back end. But if we had more people with a solid high school, college education, the propensity towards violent crime later on is lower. So that's why it's important to do things like fund a library, things like that. I dislike the amount of this increase as a representative and as a taxpayer, but I don't know that we have a choice unless we're going to start sending someone home. If you look through here and you've got something you want to cut, let's talk about it.
Sure.
I don't know how we get to that. You know, you talked about 10%. Tell me what you're willing to cut.
Well, let me,
I was gonna say, the only thing that we can do to make it lower is to do an unbalanced budget. We've done that year after year after year, and it's time to balance it and move forward.
Well, if we keep spending reserves,
We won't.
we've already gone from an A to an A minus, or, so we've gone down a little bit on our.
The rating hasn't changed.
We've been at A minus for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would take a very minute dip.
Because of the ANPI bond?
No, but.
There was a possibility
Yeah.
of it because
That
we're
risk
like
of
a,
it.
We've been A- for years.
Yeah,
But we want to stay there.
Oh, we do.
but your fund balance can change that. If you have a lower fund balance,
Yes.
that affects that rate.
that was
So
better.
the next time we do a street project or anything else that we want to bond at, if our fund balance is much lower because of coming in unbalanced, that can definitely have a direct effect on that.
Yes. That's the biggest thing that could outrate it.
And Paul, when you talked about the, payouts that we've had to do, and, those are not something we're going to be repeating yearly, fingers crossed. How much, do we have an idea of how much those were that you're talking about, like severance packages and things like that?
well, here's my suggestion is that with the residents in town, they don't really have a say in this. That's where they look towards us to represent them.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can do, or that I can suggest, without making too many enemies, is to pump the brakes on the capital improvement projects. Ron, this is nothing against you or Chuck or anything. It's just a matter of doing the numbers. The figures that come across us don't seem like they're substantial, but to the general public they are. Especially with comments like I've heard of why is we're looking at putting in a new trail, and then the possibility of our taxes going up. And I try to explain to them, it's two totally different programs. Well, their thought is, it's still under the government umbrella. And I can't get them to understand that it's separate. And that's where I'm just trying to break it down to the bare minimum of, I'll do what I can to suggest this, but I need 3 others to back me up on this. And if that doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. But that's just my suggestion.
I'm with you on anything that I think could save the city some money.
Yeah.
I'm not with you on taking that from our streets and our road projects, because the cost of repairing a street and a road, if we have an ongoing maintenance plan, is a lot of money. But if we let that road get to the point of total deterioration, it's going to cost us 4 times, 5 times as much. And yeah, this is a hard pill to swallow. But we either swallow it, we either rip that Band-Aid off, or we keep pulling at this thing for the next 10 years until we get to a point where we can have a budget with reasonable increases. And that's the point of this. Let's rip this off, and then in years forward, we can do an inflationary type budget with some planned increases for ad expenses or whatnot, and keep it around that 5, 6, or 7% amount.
Well, and I do know that we have pushed back street projects over the years, and we've redone them, so they're smaller because they came in so high. So I know we do watch, Ron watches that really well, and Chuck, We don't do one every year.
And when we do a bond payment such as the 2019, which was a very large one, we didn't do the increase needed to cover that bond payment.
Right, and
Which
that's
in and
where-
of itself would have been an 8%.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this was just a suggestion.
No,
Okay.
that's what it is.
It's not a motion or anything, I'm not pushing it, I just had to bring it up just so that there's an awareness made.
Well, we're also on a time crunch here. We have to have this certified before the end of the
I
year.
understand that.
And I think
That's why I waited so
that
long.
there are two parts too, you know, there's obviously a budget and there's sticking to the budget and saving money, but there's also making money. And I think that it would be good for us to look in the upcoming next few years, what we can do as a city. You know, if we have to think outside the box a little bit to make some more money as a city, I think that would be good too.
Yeah, there's always that.
Annexation would be the best place.
That's
to
what I
put
just
that.
said, the A word.
Yeah, I just said that.
I wasn't gonna say it,
Yeah, these are the time words.
Oh,
Yeah, Howard, yeah. There's no money there.
but we get an angry dog up in here, Paul, hush.
All right, so we're gonna do the,
Well, Neil, did you have any comments? No, that we're,
No, I think,
you made them?
okay?
I agree 100% with Gene. Those years when we were 2, 3, 3, 4 made the council people at that time look like heroes. And now we're paying and we look like sad clowns.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and you want to keep the door open. You're looking at 16.8, but realistically, we should look at the dollars because the percentage is a game.
Yeah.
So you look at the real dollars and divide them out, like you said, our base is growing. It's not going to hurt as bad as what it looks
As long as you keep growing.
for most people.
As long as we keep going down, yeah.
As long as we're growing. So if we keep growing, it's gonna be less of an effect on everybody.
Just some add-ons.
All right, so I'm on item H, which is the 2021-2022 city budget. I'd be looking for a motion to approve as indicated, or if somebody wanted to make a motion to approve with some specific amendments, I suppose we could talk about that, but I'm looking for a motion on this at this point.
I'll make the motion to approve the 2022 budget. I haven't got to the page with the numbers.
40.
I know, I'm going
Oh,
up
it
as
doesn't-
fast as my computer goes.
As presented,
As presented, that'll work.
I have a motion to adopt as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Hertzberg. All right. Any further discussion on this one? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No.
Opposed.
One opposed? Thank you. That does carry 4-1. I'll move on then to item I, the 2022 tax levy, as these things are closely aligned. Give me a second to get to that page. It's 120 of the packet.
I'm going through all these diagrams here. There we are. I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2021-23 adopting the final 2022 tax levy collectible in 2022.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Brick, to approve resolution 2021-23 adopting final 2022 tax levy collectible in 2022. Any further discussion on this? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, one opposed, 4-1, that does carry.
Now I gotta get back up there.
All right. Then we go back up to page 21, the deed, Minnesota Investment Fund for aid on plastics. Tara, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
We're just setting a public hearing for this at this time. For the requirements of the deed program, we need to have a public hearing, and after that, pass, or agree to the co-application with Avon on the program.
All right. So I'd be looking at a resolution, or a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2021-26, setting public hearing on the proposed business subsidy.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Thielen, to approve resolution 2021-26, setting public hearing on a proposed business subsidy, and that hearing is scheduled for Monday, January 10th at 6:30 p.m. Any further discussion?
If I'm reading this right, our 40% that would go back into EDAP, 72,000?
No,
No?
what will go back into EDAP is the 40% of the loan amount, not of the full amount including the grant, so it's up 40% of 120,000.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Carries. On then to item D, the elimination of the animal and dog license. Something that we discussed. This is broken up into two parts. We'd first be looking at a motion to approve the ordinance modification eliminating the licensure requirement, and then we'd be looking for a motion to refund the costs paid for 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 31, third series, eliminating licenses of animals.
I'll second.
A motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Thielen, to approve ordinance number 31, third series, eliminating licensing of animals. Any further discussion on that? Nope. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes. Great. Then is there a motion to refund? I'd appreciate if somebody did. I did say in my column that we could do that.
I'll make a motion to refund all residents who are paid for their 2022 pet license.
Second it. Get Sean out of trouble.
Thank you. I have a motion by Thielen, seconded by Sonny, to refund all residents who have paid for their 2022 pet license. Any discussion on that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? That carries. Now somebody's going to say I should have abstained. All right, then we're on to ordinance number 3, third series, alcohol consumption in public places. We've discussed this before. We'll get the resolution going that's going to accompany this.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on this, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance number 30, series, alcohol consumption in public places.
I'll second.
Motion by Sonny, seconded by Thielen. Any further discussion on that? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? That carries. Okay. All right, Glacial Lakes Trail Connection. Ron and or Chuck.
Yeah, I can take this one. A couple meetings ago, if council may recall, we talked about the letter of intent that was submitted for phase 1 of the trail extension. If you look on page 29, the map, this trail extension ultimately is what's shown in green. The extension would connect the Glacial Lakes Trail into the Lake Coronas Trail, basically following the alignment of Highway 55 out to County Road 130 and then up 130 until it hits the Glacial Lakes Trail. Phase 1 of that project is so you remember, is only in the stretch along 55 that goes from Burr out to County Road 130. So that would be the portion we'd be looking to secure funding for. We're updating the estimate, but at this point the estimate's about $525,000. We'd be looking for a grant to cover about $350,000 of that. This money's for 2026. It's federal money for 2026. So if we were successful in getting the transportation alternatives funding, the plan would be to start looking for other funding to help reduce that match cost. In the past, we've been able to secure some DNR funding to help offset some of those matching costs. So there's a couple things we would need today. Number one would be sort of designating this as your official, adding this segment into your official trail map. Why that's important is obviously when you fill out applications, they're going to see that it's part of a plan. And also MnDOT will want to see that it's part of the plan. So when they upgrade the bridge over the Crow River along 55, they will put provisions in their plans for the trail when that's done. I believe that's 2027 or 2028. I can't remember. So. In addition, then we would need the letter of support and the resolution supporting the application. Stearns County would need to be our fiscal agent since it is federal funding. The money would have to be funneled through them. They have agreed and passed a resolution to do that as well.
Chuck, can this plan be changed at all, this route?
We would, the first phase wouldn't be able to be changed. We'd have to keep it fairly close from the portion from 55, from Burr Street out to 130. Now, there would be options to look at other, if the second phase were to change, that would be an option.
Yeah, my worry still is crossing 55 right at Fleet.
Yeah, and we've had that discussion several times, as part
Yeah.
of the safe routes to school discussion.
Yeah.
Hopefully looking for some other options. Yeah, there's.
That's why I asked if
Hopefully
it could
it'd be nice
change.
if they reduce the speed limit, but we know
Yeah.
that sometimes can be
Yeah.
challenging. So I think we'll be able to look for options on how to accomplish that.
Okay.
That's the plan right now, to cross 55 by Fleet, then stay on, well, if you're heading west, just stay on the left-hand side of 55.
We'll be on the north side of 55. From Burr Street, where the trail crosses by Burr right now. It'd be on the north side of 55, all the way out to where it hits County Road 130.
But anybody from Willow Acres would have to cross 55.
Okay.
Trail.
Okay,
That's the
so
one
then,
everyone's concerned about, yes.
so then by Dollar General, you're gonna cross 23?
You will cross
Yeah.
Business 23.
At the intersection, correct.
That could be a little scary.
That's why I asked if this could be changeable.
It'd be at the four-way stop there, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'd rather see you go down a block and come up with a Dairy Queen, I think.
we came up with an alternative, which we prefer, but of course, that's costlier.
Yeah, originally we looked at putting a bridge over the Crow River down by Opportunity Park Drive and going through the Willow. Now, ultimately, you still have to cross, the trail users going to Glacial would still have to cross 55 and around, so we're looking at potentially trying to do a combination of both.
But it gives safer access to the residents of Willow, and we're trying to combine it with the Safe Routes to School program because there's more funding in that program that could help support it. We just don't know how it's gonna come out yet, but I would say that's the preferred route, but it's much costlier.
Yeah, for the Willow people, definitely trying to get some kind of pedestrian bridge across the river into town would be the preferred. It just becomes the cost of trying to find the funding for that.
And what was the estimate of that bridge, the amount?
It's a couple $1 million.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
1.8, 1.9 million, yeah.
Paul?
Can I ask a question?
No.
So, we have a trail that runs down Veterans Drive out to Roseville Road. Does that road not connect with the Glacier Lake Trail?
No. The Glacier Lakes Trail stops in Roscoe and it picks up at the Candiota County line.
But that's where we're trying to take it to, right?
There's an issue actually between the 2 points along the Glacier Lakes Trail is trying to get over the railroad.
Okay.
So this would actually create a connection where somebody in Glacier Lakes could come into from town from the north, use this trail, and then continue out Veterans Drive and reconnect with it there.
And the railroad has already approved expanding the crossing there, right, or the...
Yeah, County Road 130, I was talking along the existing Glacier Lakes alignment, there's an issue where the underpass is under 55, where the railroad is, of trying to get a, my understanding is that there's been some struggles to get a trail through there.
So the road going out Veterans does collect at Glacier Lakes, it just doesn't go north.
Yes.
I just, from a public safety side, I am not an all-in advocate of having anything cross 55.
Yes.
I think it's a horrible idea.
I know I had made a suggestion one time of, at the Canadian Pacific Railroad crossing under that bridge and going in front of Fleet Supply, and just being able to stay on the south side of 55. But again, that's something that we're working with the township on and the trail board. So again, that's why I asked if this is changeable.
And I guess is the township willing to pay half of the cost that we pay?
That's the understanding, yeah.
Their letter of support enclosed in here.
And they passed a resolution as well.
And the same way, once it would be done, 50/50 on maintenance.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the agreement we have with the rest of the trail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just hope it can be done safely, because that's the intent for kids especially to be able to walk or bike to school and not get run over.
And that was the goal of part of the safe routes to schools, maybe we can access, this trail can still be pursued, but maybe we can also look at some kind of pedestrian crossing for the winter local.
Because whether you're gonna cross 55 or 23, they're
Yeah.
both equally dangerous in my opinion.
I don't think any parent's gonna send their kid across, that speed limit, especially those times of day when people are going to work or from work. It's not gonna happen, so hopefully there are some alternatives.
Yeah, I'm okay with this for a trail where you generally would have some sort of adult with, or somebody who in theory should be of more reasoned mind. But no, I don't think we can give up on the pedestrian bridge idea.
No, it's still in play.
Yeah. Okay. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the trail extension into the trail plan.
I'll make that motion,
Okay.
to approve the trail extension into the trail plan.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Thielen, seconded by Sony, to approve the trail extension into the trail plan. Any further discussion on that? Nope. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Great. Then we'd be looking for a motion to approve the letter of support and the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support, resolution 21-24, supporting transportation alternatives, solicitation, application, Glacial Lakes Trail Extension.
We have a motion by Hertzberg. Is there a second?
That was a motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Thielen, to approve the letter of support, resolution 2021-24, supporting transportation alternatives, solicitation, application, Glacial Lakes Trail Extension. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That carries. All right, our water and sewer rates then on page 35, the last part of our 2022 budget. We'd be looking for a motion to approve resolution 2021-21 regarding chapter 34.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
So we have a motion by Sony, seconded by Thielen, to approve resolution 2021-21 regarding chapter 24, the 2022 water and sewer rates. Any further discussion on this? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Moving on then, give me a minute, please. We're going all the way to page 122. All right. Belinda, can you tell us a little bit about the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021?
This is basically housekeeping. Nothing was recommended that I saw when we received our $133,000 from the ARPA funds in July to have a resolution regarding this. However, when we received that little bit that I emailed you on the $4,300, basically that is additional monies we received because of cities that did not apply for their money, leaving that balance there that they allocated to those that did apply. At that point, though, they recommended passing a resolution accepting the money. So I thought, well, if we're gonna do it, let's just include both amounts and make sure we're covered regardless.
Okay. I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2021-25, American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Second.
We have a motion by Sony, seconded by Brick, to approve resolution 2021-25, American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Any further discussion on this? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Carries. Okay, going on to the COVID on page 124. It says policies and procedures will give an update, so I guess that falls on me. Couple of things came up regarding COVID and the recent surge that just won't get out of our lives. The city did pass, initially back when COVID first started, it was rescinded and then renewed, basically 80 hours of PTO for city employees who needed to use that for like a COVID quarantine. Either because they themselves were infected or they had a family member, for whatever reason they needed to quarantine for 2 weeks, there was going to be PTO. They did not have to dip into their reserves. because this was a public health emergency. That was rescinded for a couple of months, and then we passed it again. I believe it was in September or October, where we renewed that and said any city employee can have their 80 hours. What we have found is that
The same 80 hours that they haven't used already.
right, the same 80 hours, not a new strategy. But what we have found is that there's been at least one employee who's had to quarantine twice because she tested positive twice. There's another employee who's currently out, who used up that 80 hours. And there have been discussions on what can we do to help these people out. One idea thrown out at policies and procedures is number 2 on here, which is the creation of a PTO bank. And that would help out all of the employees, not just COVID. So employees who have a buildup of PTO, however many hours they have, can donate to a citywide bank. And they fill out a form to sign off, and now 30 hours of their accrued PTO goes to the bank. So if somebody has a medical emergency where they can't work and that person's out of hours, they can dip into the bank. If there are hours there, they get it. If not, maybe people donate, maybe they don't get any hours. It's not a guaranteed thing, but it might be helpful if it's there.
And it's for a qualified emergency event, not just somebody wants extra vacation.
Right, yeah, if it's a medical event, something like that. So the recommendation for policies and procedures would be to create a PTO bank that all employees can share. The other recommendation, and the reason why it's not spelled out on here, is we were waiting for some legal advice from the labor attorney who got back to us just a few minutes before the meeting started. The recommendation would be to offer an additional 40 hours of COVID PTO for employees who have been vaccinated and need to take another leave due to a positive test or other COVID-related reason. We did clear that with the labor attorney, who indicated that it should be fine, with the caveat that the law on COVID seems to change by the minute. But as of right now, that because it's an incentive, it's not any type of a penalty. Nobody's losing anything by not getting vaccinated. They still have the choice to do that or not. But if they choose to do so, they have an extra 40 hours should they need to take another leave. The one recommendation that the labor attorney had regarding this was that if we're going to do it, we also add in the exception for those who have a medical justification for not being excused, or those who have a true and sincere religious exemption.
This would have to be verified by medical staff, right?
I'm just going to leave that to Tarek. It's his call, not mine.
Well, we'd have to have-
I'm not getting into that.
Yes.
Hey, on the PTO bank,
Yes.
could those who have offered time into the bank, could that be pulled back at all?
So
Or is it once it's there, it's there?
all I can speak to is my experience that we have out in the county, which is once it's gone, it's gone.
Okay.
You can't pull it back. And then it
Unless you have an
becomes,
emergency.
right, unless you have an emergency, in which case you hope it's still there.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so the recommendation from policies and procedures is to adopt both of these. I'd be looking for a motion on either one or both.
I'll make a motion on both. The motion to extension of COVID pay and the motion for the creation of a PTO bank.
And regarding COVID pay, was that as discussed for 40 hours additional for those who have been vaccinated, or those who have a medical exemption or a true and sincere religious exemption?
Yes, as discussed.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. So I have a motion by Thielen, second by Soini. That motion, let me make sure I'm getting it right here, please, is to expand on the COVID PTO policy by authorizing an additional 40 hours to employees who have received their vaccination. And I think we talked about policies and procedures that that's at least the first round. We're not looking at boosters and things like that. We're looking at rounds 1 and 2. So receive their vaccination, who need to quarantine, or for those who have a medical or religious exemption, and then also authorizing the creation of a PTO bank. Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
That's your second? Okay. Any further discussion on that?
I'll be abstaining as this pertains to me.
Okay. All right, hearing and seeing no further discussion then. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That does carry with one abstention. All right, hiring a police officer, page 125. Chief Wagner.
So it seems a little ironic that we would have this on here, considering talk about the contract and the theory that this will hopefully retain staff. There's a high probability that we will be losing an officer to a neighboring community here in the near future. That's not a guarantee yet, but I'd like to get ahead of this and get the process started. Back in August, September maybe, we moved from the 5th full-time to part-time. To date, I believe we have 3 total applications for that part-time position. I have yet to convene our group to do that just because I want to have enough people to actually have those conversations. But with this, I'd like to just kind of put that on the back burner for now and switch us over to a full-time posting with the anticipation that we're going to have this opening. It doesn't commit us to hiring, but we can certainly get ahead of it. I checked the pool line today, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'm hopeful that our contract will be able to generate some interest from officers that are currently working in other agencies. Between the pay, the sabbatical, what we do have in there for health and wellness, I think that's huge. I know the guys have talked with quite a few different people around the area about the sabbatical, and that has received rave reviews, so hopefully that will be able to bring some folks in. But currently there's 52 agencies, not including Minneapolis and St. Paul, that are hiring. That number has not decreased. So when you think about this, every day we have agencies dropping off, new agencies coming on. The hiring is extremely competitive right now. A lot of agencies are offering hiring bonuses. We'll be offering different incentives for them to come here. Of those, when you throw Minneapolis, St. Paul in there, you've got 300 officers from Minneapolis that I believe they're looking to hire 70 from St. Paul. The schools are not pumping out anywhere near the candidates that they used to. Just in our area, Meeker County currently has 2 open spots. Cold Spring is open, Candy, Ohio is open. I am told Stearns will have 11 to hire next year. Melrose, I believe, pulled theirs. They were hiring. St. Cloud is open, Wright County is open. So I want to see if we can get ahead of it, if possible. And then ultimately, if this officer does leave, we're a few steps ahead versus being behind and starting over.
Okay. Any questions for the chief? So with that, the recommendation is to start the hiring process for a full-time officer and continue until a candidate is found. And Chief, I do also understand that if for some reason we're not going to lose an officer, that we're going to take this back and go down the part-time road again.
We will drop this back to part-time.
Begrudgingly, I understand.
At this point, I'm not going to guarantee I will not be talking with you in the new year about back to 5, but I also understand.
Sure we will, yes.
I also understand our budget, so I understand it'll be a timing thing. But yes, if he does not leave, then we will be dropping him back to the part-time.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve starting the hiring process for a full-time police officer with the above tentative hiring process and to allow the police department administration to continue with the process until a recommendation may be made to council.
Okay, I have a motion by Soini, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Hertzberg, as stated on the action sheet. Any further discussion on this?
I'm also hesitant to wait until 2023 for a fifth full-time officer, but I understand the budget is what it is, but if for some reason we come into a lot of money, I think it's something we should look at.
Great. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Thank you. All right, with that, then that concludes our business. Well, we do have our informational packets on here. The Elected Leaders Institute, an advanced program there. Let Jennifer know. The MediaCom increase. We need to keep talking about when we renegotiate with MediaCom, if that's in the years to come. If anyone wants to switch board assignment, let me know. Proposed rate increase from the city attorney, and then our police department reports. So with that, that concludes our public business. It is 7:36. We'll adjourn our public meeting and go into closed session to talk about the performance review of our city administrator and annual performance appraisal and potential contract negotiations.
Lexi will be at 6 o'clock.
I'll go back to bed.
All right, we're back on, guys.
My notes.
All right, so we have adjourned our closed session to discuss the city administrator's performance review. It is 7:53, so we'll reopen our public business meeting.
If I remember correctly from previous reviews, we always went in and said that it was a satisfactory review. We make that motion.
Yep. So, we talked about the reviews of the city administrator, provided some thoughts and comments. Overall, the reviews are very satisfactory. Everyone seems to be very pleased with the city administrator, and we'd be looking for a motion to approve the evaluations.
I'll make the motion to approve Carrick's evaluation.
Second.
I have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Sony. Any further discussion on that? None, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Tarek has asked me if we can look at some terms of his contract, get that renewed.
How long was the contract for?
It's just a year, wasn't it?
Was it just a one-year contract?
Good night, Belinda.
We're looking at what, a 5 or 10 year contract?
So,
Usually we did 3 or 5.
So I think we have a couple of options here tonight. One, we can certainly talk about terms, length being one of those, anything that you might want to change in there. And then come back at the next meeting and approve a full contract. Or two is we talk about some terms that you think might be at issue, get an agreement on that, and we'll just put a contract on for the next council meeting and get that signed then. What would you like to do?
Well, I mean, I don't really have much to discuss that. I didn't think about terms. I figured that you guys would decide what kind of term you want, whether it's a 1, 3, or 5. I mean, I don't know what terms you have there.
It's usually been 3 or 5.
Okay, so
What would you like?
no, I'm fine with that.
Either one?
Yeah, either one.
Okay. So I don't remember where you fell on the step scale, but my understanding, we'd be looking at just continuing you on up that scale with the standard COLA adjustment.
Yes.
Any proposed changes to that?
No, I'm happy with that. I mean, I don't want to eat into the city's budget.
Right. We did talk, there was an issue with a floating holiday that you wanted to address, yes?
Yes, for Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, which is a public holiday or a holiday here, it wasn't in my contract.
Oh, that must have been an oversight.
Yeah. So I think that was an oversight, but they include that in.
Well, I don't know don't they have to take vacation for that day? Or, I don't
So most of the department heads use that as their floating holiday.
Oh, sure.
Tarek did not have a floating holiday.
Oh,
So I gave the approval to just let it go.
yep.
And my thought and justification on that, Tarek, is, yeah, you might not have a floating holiday, but I think that was a technical oversight. And I have no doubt in my mind that you put in more than 40 hours every week anyway. So I don't care.
No.
I'm not gonna make you look at PTO.
I would add it so it's
Yeah, so it's in the
Yep.
next
on
contract.
paper.
Yeah.
I have one thought too, and maybe Terry can tell me if I'm out of line. We originally gave you a time period to locate the Painesville and a dollar amount, and I'd like to extend that if you're at all interested.
Oh, well, that was very generous.
I'll agree with
I'll
that.
make that motion. I forget what the amount was, but whatever it was, I'd like to extend it for 1 year.
1 year? Okay.
1 year. And that's my motion.
Okay. I don't know that we need a motion on that.
I looked at a place today,
Did you?
but I'm not telling anybody what it is.
Okay, just in
Because
case.
we'd really like you to live at Painesville.
Well, I would too. I have some ideas here.
Really, this one, is it one that I told you to look at?
Nope.
Okay.
There's only so many
He
others.
doesn't want that on public
If I tell you, you guys are gonna get a bunch of ideas in your head, so I won't tell anybody.
Okay.
No, I think the only reason why we don't need to have a motion on it, Neil, I'm not going to shut it down, is
One is enough.
I'm sort of thinking of this as like a working session.
Okay.
And then we'll bring back a full.
We're right.
Okay.
We'll approve it, but Yes, I'd like that added back in.
Yeah, is there any objection to that?
Well, considering the way the housing was, about the time you came is when all of a sudden it went crazy. It just wasn't gonna work in that timeframe.
Yeah.
And I think if we could keep this guy on for 5 years, I'd be all for it, because I think he's doing a pretty good job.
Does that mean you're on for 5 years?
Even if I'm not on 5 years.
I hope I'm around 5 years.
Well, like I said, there's a good team here, so I think
After October, I didn't
I
know.
only got 3.
So, the last thing that we wanted to talk about, Tarek had in his original contract some remote work days where you were allowed to work remotely from London to be with your family. And I know you've asked me if I thought that was something we could include again. I certainly have no objection to that. I think that in the world going forward, we have to include remote work. Otherwise, we're not going to attract any employees. So, what would
Well, I
you,
just would like to keep it to a minimum though.
Yeah, no, I was gonna suggest a number of days per year or something.
Are we doing like a set day a week? Are we doing a number of hours per?
No, I
No,
don't.
not per week.
No, just so many per year.
A number of days per year.
Yeah.
I'll
what
go
are you
with that.
thinking?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I mean,
5, 6?
days?
Yeah.
No, more than that.
Oh, of course.
Well, he's got to make sure that a kid isn't getting out of line at the university.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm trying to.
So what was it?
Begging members.
Hold on. It was it 14 in the original contract?
No, it was. Let's see, one.
I'm thinking it was like
15 or 20.
No.
15 maybe.
Neil, was it as many as 4
I
weeks?
thought it was 2 weeks and then 1 week.
No, it was 1 week, 2 week, 1 week.
Yes.
Oh, I
So it was 20 working days.
Yeah.
And part of that is because your
You
situation
were going
with
back.
the family in London was unique. So I'm not,
So
I'm good with 15 or.
Sure.
How would it be if you were able to extend some of that time working out there, just be available by phone?
No,
That's what it is.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, sure.
He was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. I mean, how was that?
We were on Zoom and.
Well, I want to make sure you get a vacation where you don't have to hear from us.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, yeah, that's not vacation.
This is just
Yeah, it's
working
separate from
remotely.
his.
Gotcha. Okay, we're good. Okay.
So 15 days?
I'm fine with that.
Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Anything else that we need to talk about?
Nope,
Is that 15 days gonna be in for 5 years?
every year.
I know, every year for 5 years.
Or we can discuss it down the road if you want.
I hope so.
Well, I kind of think,
At least 15.
and I don't mean to be rude about this, but I kind of think a 3-year contract would be more appropriate.
3-year, yeah, so we could read. And then, like a COLA increase in wages every year?
Right,
On a
COLA
3-year.
plus step increase.
Yeah, plus step increase, okay. Yeah, I think 3 years for the first contract is
I prefer to get them tied up so no headhunters come looking.
If, whatever you tie me up to, I'm tying you guys up to as well.
Huh?
Okay. So I will work with Spooner and Hanson to get a contract drawn up and put on our next agenda.
Okay.
We'll circulate that with you and handle it from there.
Okay, well, sounds good to me.
All right.
Anything else that we might be missing?
Mm-mm.
No, benefits are the same, I mean, I'm fine with that.
okay.
I guess I got one item. Be good to know who's interested in going to the LMC training. I highly recommend it for everybody
Especially the newly elected.
across the board, and I believe the administrator, Renee, used to go to a lot of meetings, so.
Is it online or is it?
It is.
It's either or.
It's either or, but, you know, the real training with other people, I think, is,
Yeah.
if you can fit it in.
Go in person if
And the
possible.
one thing, if we all went, it would probably 2 vehicles. We don't want everybody going by themselves.
And what's that date?
Or bus? Anyone?
4th and 5th of February, it's a Friday, Saturday.
that's a good day.
You're out of there usually by Saturday
Isn't
night.
it? It's in
Yeah.
Plymouth, yeah.
And I've been to quite a few, well, Gene's been to tons of them. They're basically, you learn and it's fun. And we get together and eat at night, and
Yeah, I'd like to go.
Do some,
it's a good thing. Sure. You've been at some, Sean.
Specify that.
Yeah,
They're fun.
yep. I
we
intend
missed
to
it
go.
the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will be going unless for some reason we can't. You know, they canceled the last ones that I had signed up for, so hopefully they continue that again.
Yep, I was signed up last
Right.
week.
Yep. So, they canceled our mayor's conference. That was a bummer to me.
That is, that's a fun one.
Yeah, we were gonna have some sort of a scavenger hunt around the city of St. Joe.
Aw.
Why is it that hunt always ends up at a bar?
And I saw that the league
Why not?
annual conference is in Duluth this year again.
Well, that'll be a good one for all of us.
I've been to that
Yeah.
twice.
That's one of the best.
That is, the Duluth one's the most fun. I hated Rochester. The parking sucks.
I made the order action.
Where did you get the knee?
I got the need, I'll find out tomorrow when they're gonna
Do this knee.
crack it.
We'll wheel you around in a wheelchair, it'll be fine. So we'll wheel you around in a wheelchair.
We are adjourned.
We're diversing.